We can also, though, bring in our defence and security analyst, Professor Michael Clark. Michael, this is the first reports that we're getting from Ukraine, from the President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, that potentially Chinese citizens have been fighting alongside Russian forces. If it's proven that that is the case, what does this mean for the course of the war?
I mean, two or three different things. If they are just Chinese individuals who are fighting effectively as mercenaries, then that's obviously embarrassing to China. But in a way, it goes no further than that. And there may be quite a number of them, because we do know that Russia has been recruiting people from all over the world, lots of nationalities, because they're offering them huge amounts of money. If that's the case, if it is the case that they are there as in some informal but Chinese capacity as advisors, or they've got some sort of function as special forces, that would be very serious indeed, because China has always said that it doesn't help Russia in this war, that it's a neutral country and so on. And we all know that isn't true, but this will be very, very embarrassing for the Chinese, and we'll put another twist on that. Of course, the Western countries have advisors that help the Ukrainians, but we make no bones about it. We say, yeah, we agree with what Ukraine is trying to do. We're trying to help them resist this Russian attack, this Russian aggression. And so, yes, our people have been there. They're in and out of the place all the time. We don't comment on special force operations, but of course our advisors have been helping. No, there's no argument about that. But the Chinese pretend that they don't help the Russians. They pretend that they don't, that they're somehow neutral. But we know that they supply enormous numbers of components. They buy Chinese oil more than they actually need themselves in order to help the Russian balance of payments. And if it turns out that they are in some material respect sending Chinese individuals as advisors or in some sort of special forces, that would be very embarrassing indeed. But we're not at that point yet. All we know is that the Ukrainians claim that they can prove that these two individuals that they've got hold of, that they've captured among the 6 Chinese individuals they say they engaged in Donetsk, which is in the east of the country, it's nowhere near Kursk, where the North Koreans are. But if they've got these 2 individuals and they can prove that they're Chinese nationals, then either they are individuals as mercenaries, or it's something more sinister, and that would put a new turn on the political circumstances in which this war is being fought.
And this obviously kind of echoes and mirrors the flip side to this situation, that we know that hundreds, if not thousands, of international volunteers have gone to fight for the Ukrainian side against Russia, and that Moscow has made great mileage in trying to kind of leverage the fact that foreign units are fighting on the behalf of Kiev, and Kiev will be keen to do the same in this situation. It will be keen to point out that it is fighting not just against Russian individuals, but potentially individuals from 2, in reference there to Russia and North Korea, and maybe now potentially 3 different nations.
Yes, I mean, again, there's an asymmetry in the transparency about all of this. Yes, a lot of individuals from many nations in the world went to fight for the International Legion and are still fighting for what's called the International Legion in Ukraine, which is about a battalion-sized group, although they're not fighting as a single battalion. But it's a few hundred people, maybe 500 or 600. I mean, it grows and it shrinks according to time and chance. But there's no argument about it. As individuals, many of them are from Western countries, Canadians, Americans, some British people. They've gone there to aid Ukraine out of a sense of commitment, and because they think that they can make some sort of difference. And there's no argument about that. We say that that's what it is. It's what's being done, and it's entirely legal in the sense that they go as individuals and they take their chances as individuals. What has happened on the Russian side is that they've never admitted that they recruit people from all over the world. They never admitted that they had 12,000 North Koreans fighting in Kursk, which again, legally they're entitled to do if they're in Kursk, because they're North Koreans fighting on Russian territory, legal Russian territory, against a foreign incursion of in this case, Ukraine. So as long as the North Koreans stay inside Russia, there's no problem about that. But if these Chinese individuals turn up in Donetsk, which is contested territory and is legally still Ukraine, and if these Chinese individuals turn out to be in any way official, then that crosses quite a big legal line, because that then would mean that the Chinese are sending individuals to fight in a contested area to join an invasion of a foreign country. That would be the legal situation. I mean, the Chinese would pretend that that isn't the truth, and the Russians would say that Donetsk is Russian territory, which is what they say, but legally, of course, it isn't. It's Ukrainian territory, and it has been since 1991. So it all depends on what the status of these individuals turns out to be. Are they acting on their own, off their own bat, in which case it's embarrassing but not hugely serious? Or are they more officially connected? And of the 6 Chinese nationals that Ukraine claims to have engaged, is that the tip of an iceberg of more Chinese individuals? And if that is the case, then that would suggest that there's a more official policy in operation here to have Chinese assistance to Russian forces or the militia forces, the Donetsk People's Republican forces who fight with the Russians.
As we're talking, Michael, we're just seeing Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Kiev holding a joint press conference with the Belgian Prime Minister, who has stated it's Belgium's ambition to give at least a minimum of €1 billion every year to Ukraine during the government's term. And that leads me to ask the question with regards to the developments regarding the reports of these Chinese individuals. Volodymyr Zelenskyy referenced it in his Telegram post. This requires a reaction, he says, a reaction from the United States, Europe and everyone in the world. To what degree, depending on where this goes, will he be able to leverage the White House and Washington when we consider the current backdrop and the level of ire and acrimony there is between Beijing and the US?
Yes, I mean, you would expect Zelensky to say this. I mean, he's leading a government that is in a country that's fighting for its life against an invading power that we know is determined to crush Ukraine, not just to beat them now, but to actually eliminate Ukraine as an independent country. There's no argument about that. That's what the Russians have always said. It's what they intend either now or in a few years' time, whatever it is. So you would expect him to say that. As any war leader would, he demands help. He demands it. He demands a reaction. Well, he'll get a reaction from Europe. He may not get a reaction from the United States at the moment because the US is playing a much bigger game with China. And the US, absolutely, the Trump administration does not want to look as if it's reacting to Zelensky's requests or demands, particularly if that reflects badly on Trump's growing relationship with President Putin of Russia. So although at the moment Russia and America and China are locked in this rhetorical, crazy trade war, I don't think this will affect it that much. I mean, there are 2 different issues at the moment. And the Americans will certainly not want to look as if they're manipulated by Zelensky's rhetoric, even though I think his rhetoric will have some effect on European leaders, as I think we can see there with the Belgian Prime Minister.